Well, thank you all. This is a hell of a crowd, by the way. I snuck in a little late, though I was here early. I had the privilege and opportunity to have a round table just downstairs, and as I said to the group at the end of our discussion, to distill the essence of why we're here and rediscover the why. Because we're answering not just the why today, we're answering the what and how. And I think today marks a powerful and important milestone that we are moving beyond identifying issues, but to a paradigm shift to begin the process of being accountable to solve them. And I want to underscore the issue of accountability, because I imagine folks at home watching folks like us, podiums like this, they're a little exhausted. They've kind of had it. They've given up. A lot of folks have. That things will ever improve, ever get any better. That, their concerns matter, that we even give a damn or care. And their frustration is palpable. It's self-evident. It's manifests in so many different forms. Dejection, despair, populism, revolt. But at the end of the day, they're right to be frustrated, because the results we haven't proved that we are capable of meeting their concerns and anxieties. The results aren't there. And today, again, is about holding ourselves to a higher level of accountability and a higher level of expectation. And it's about creating a framework where we actually can deliver, recognizing we all have a fundamental role to play. This is not Washington, D.C.'s issue. It's not Sacramento's issue. It's not L.A. County or city's issue. All of us have a role and responsibility to play. Society becomes how we behave. We are our behaviors. The last half century, where we can lament about what went wrong as it relates to the issue of deinstitutionalization, what went wrong with the Elijah and Petra Short Act. By the way, the year of my birth, 1967, that happened on my watch. That happened on many of your watch. Again, society becomes how we behave. We have a responsibility to shift this paradigm. And so, again, I'm here mindful of this moment, sober in the reality, as the senator said, that this is the beginning of a process. I say this all the time. Program passing is not problem solving. Signing a bill doesn't change the world. It's all the work that has to be done. It's the application of our ideals. It's the manifestation of our ideals. And so we are here with a sense of hopefulness and possibility. I heard that when I walked in. You feel that. It's palpable. And all of you that are assembled here today. A recognition that in this nation, we screwed this up. For all the goodwill and good intentions, and I know we cast aspersions. I'm a partisan Democrat at times. At times. I thought it was just all Ronald Reagan's fault. But then I started to learn about the O'Connor versus Donaldson decision in '75, and I think, well, that wasn't Reagan. The Supreme Court decision around deinstitutionalization, mental illness can't be the exclusive reason we incarcerate someone. I started to learn about what happened in the 50s and 60s and psychotropics and lithium and thorazine, and all of a sudden the ability now to medicate people at home and in the community and the need not to have a locked facility. I recognized that these facilities, you walk downstairs with me. You need to have 2 or 3 people there. It could be scary, some of these places. And so there was a righteousness in the 60s. There was. Democrats and Republicans saying, we got to move away from these locked institutions, these beds. But the vision was never fulfilled. Again, lack of accountability. The implementation wasn't there after LPS. They made all these promises. We had 22,000 locked beds in the state of California in 1967. And we were supposed to replicate that community-based care. But there was no accountability, ultimately. There was no obligations either way. And that's what we're trying to reconcile. That said, we're also building on the back of some giants that tried to do the right thing and did the right thing. One of them was current mayor of Sacramento. I mean, talk about a damn hero on this issue, Darrell Steinberg. one of these two bills, there'd be no bill to sign today because there would have been no Mental Health Services Act to reform. But the fact that the author of the legislation in 2004 acknowledges the world that existed in 2004 is not the world that existed today, and he's willing to take it upon himself to say, we were right in terms of how we laid out a vision, but we were wrong not to own up to the fact that things had shifted and things had changed. And this wouldn't have happened unless he asserted himself in his moral leadership in this process and said, as the author of the Mental Health Services Act, we need to reform this. We need to include substance abuse. We need to include housing as a foundational component. We need to advance a workforce where we have ongoing funding to address the crisis of workforce. There is no vision realized unless we have visionaries that are willing to sacrifice and help lift other people up. And that's a workforce that will be benefited, $2.4 billion just in the next 5 years, specifically with the signature that I will attach to this piece of legislation, just in that one fundamental component of the Mental Health Services Act reform. That's a big damn deal. To Senator Eggman, you heard it. This has been a cause and a passion of our life. What a gift it was just last week. I mean, just the conservatorship reform we did last week, which didn't seem to get that much attention, hell, that would have been the biggest accomplishment of the last decade. In the isolation of the progress that we've been making together. And I just want to make a point, and I want to distill all that and ask all of you to come on up, because this is a group moment to sign this legislation. But I've said this often, once a mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. I really believe that. And I think what started shifting, and I see all these amazing legislative leaders here, including local leaders and former state leaders that are in positions of real power and influence locally, is people all started to recognize, we were playing in the margins. We were arguing to fail more efficiently. And we had to own up to that. Tinkering around, Kendra's law becomes Laura's law, and then you look at sometimes you're like 208, I think we had 218 people we helped one year. This is small ball. And we needed to process things differently. That care court, I thought, was a paradigm shift. We've got 7 counties now, just started a couple of weeks ago. And the willingness for people to listen, and thank you for saying it. NAMI, we wouldn't be here without you either. And all these courageous leaders and moms and loved ones that, you weren't interested in the old paradigm and the old dialectic. It was stale, the rhetoric. And in your lived reality, talk about moral authority. It was a force to be reckoned with. And people just started to flip. And so I thank you for that. I was saying it to many downstairs. Thank you for your courage and your leadership. And I know that, I said it, right? Didn't I tell you? I said, I'm going to come up here and say all these niceties, but I'll never deeply understand what you've lived through. For the grace of God, go any of us. And so, with humility and gratitude and the grace that you've displayed as an organization, thank you. Kennedy had the Community Mental Health Service Act in '63. Carter had good intentions in the '80s. Reagan does those block grants and flips that back. We start raising SROs and, redevelopment. We walk away from these issues. Keeps getting manifested. Worse and worse, stacking up. Reforms here, reforms there. But here we are, that final key link. And this is to Assemblywoman Irwin's point. We need the infrastructure as well. I hear it all the time. This is great, but where do we go? We were with a young man who was out there doing incredible work at Phoenix House, and he says 60 to 90 days. And then he's just silent. And we go, I got it. He goes, then what? Where do they go? Where do they go? What's the step down? What's the alternative? What's the opportunity? And that's what we're fulfilling. Rand put out, final thoughts. Rand put out a survey a couple years ago. It was an important survey. a deep dive analysis of what is needed in the state of California in terms of infrastructure, beds, boarding care, community-based, the whole panel. 6,000 or so units short. That gave us the ability to say, that's it? Feels like 600,000, but 6,000. And that became the process to which we developed and sized the bond, building off the extraordinary work and by the efficacy and outcomes of the veterans' work that's been done in this state. And we took that billion and we built it to $6.38 billion, $6.4 billion, which is the equivalent now of over 11,000 new units and beds. In addition, 27,000 new treatment slots for outpatient care that will also benefit from this bond. We're going big. This is big. So those are the two bills. That's the bookmark. That's the opportunity today. Building on all the incredible work that Mark Galley, can you just give a big round of applause to Mark Galley has been doing? Secretary Galley, Lindsay Lourdes, this CalAIM, this $11 billion 5-year effort to integrate brain health and physical health, to focus on whole person care at scale statewide, to focus on treating brain health early before we punish it later, to provide opportunities through 1115 waiver, to begin the process of getting rental subsidies, and to have the opportunity to create stability as it relates to now incorporating housing through those federal funds and federal waivers, the work we're doing on IMD with $600 million, the recognition across the spectrum of the importance of our youth, $4.6 billion, a new master plan for our youth of new money that was just passed a couple of years ago. All of that integrating into this moment. So if I am not coming off as proud, I'm not doing my job, but also deeply humble. And I'll close by saying this in its final words. I said it downstairs. Everyone's expression is unique. Life is challenging, and I don't know what more evidence we need than turning on the morning news. Everything that's going on. And I just want to close. You guys, all of you, you said there's two kinds of people. People that have been diagnosed, people that have been undiagnosed. But I also, before I sign, I just want to say this to all of you. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I don't care, especially you fancy people. You put on your little uniform every day and act like you're all that. But everybody, what we went through the last few years, if you paused and really thought about it, social unrest, not just a pandemic, loss of loved ones. You may have literally lost a loved one, suicide, your own thoughts in that space, social isolation, disconnection, family, friends, relationships, sense of normalcy, just torn asunder in the last few years to a degree few generations have ever had to experience. I hope you reflect on that. The fact that you're here, man, that's testament to you and your remarkable capacity. But I hope you take care of yourself. And I hope you're not too hard on yourself. Don't judge yourself, and don't compare yourself. Someone said to me, powerful words, the thief of all happiness is comparison. And so I'm here in that mindset as well, because it's very stressful out there. And it's hard. And so I just want you to know we're all in this together. And we're all better off, and we're all better off. And I just want to thank you for your example. Thank you for not giving into that fear and anxiety. Thank you for not giving into that cynicism. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for always showing up for each other. And thank you for the privilege of my life to have the opportunity to invite all of you up here to sign these two extraordinary bills. Thank you all for this privilege and opportunity. Well, thanks, guys, for being here. Obviously, an exciting day for us, but this day marks a moment in the journey. That journey will, of course, culminate in March with a ballot initiative, Prop 1, which will now be focused on with earnest now that the bill is signed, organizing to galvanize this state across jurisdictions, north, south, east, west, but also across party lines. And I think the a point that needs to be emphasized that wasn't emphasized in the room is this was bipartisan legislation that we signed today. Democrats, Republicans, all of us impacted by the issue of mental health, mental illness, and recognize the enormity of the task, the enormity of our obligations to do more and better. And so we're very excited about the prospects of our success in March. And moreover, the prospects that we're promoting of real fundamental change across the spectrum, the seen and unseen, not just those that are on the streets and sidewalks, but those that are suffering alone and suffering the consequences of neglect and isolation. And so this is a big day for all of us. I think it's a big day for not only the state, but I think this is a model for the nation as well. We're happy to, of course, answer any questions.
Governor, last time you and I talked, was it a week ago?
Yeah.
We're old friends now.
Yeah, we are. Yes. We were talking gas back then.
That's right, we were.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, every Californian, I think, looks at the $10.9 billion and goes, wow, that's a lot of money. How do people know this is going to make a dent in a problem that many people feel like they've spent a lot of money on and haven't seen enough results?
No, I mean, what distinguishes this is there's an acknowledgement in the reform that we need to be more accountable to what's really going on, and notably what's happening on the streets and sidewalks. All of us see it every single day, and I think those that are most enlightened recognize there's no compassion stepping over people on the streets and sidewalks, that we have to address the issue differently and more strategically. And reforming this Mental Health Services Act without increasing taxes at all allows us to invest $1 billion a year ongoing with the expectation that the counties know that money will be forthcoming, that allow them to build partnership and capacity that focuses on stabilization, dealing with the underlying issue in the first place. It's very difficult. I can't even imagine. You're living under a freeway overpass, and we're doing outpatient treatment, but you're going right back into the elements every single night. I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of us self-medicate every single night with a beer or a glass of wine watching the news. You can imagine living in the elements. You can't moralize that. People with drug or alcohol addictions, with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, paranoia, but they don't have that housing stability. You need that housing stability. It's foundational. And then the ability to have people that are duly diagnosed now with substance abuse disorders, not just those with mental health or mental illness, isolated, is the foundational shift, and it's all around accountability. It's all about results.
Governor, in July, the Legislative Analyst Office said this proposal would result in less discretion for counties and likely less spending on other programs. And one of the questions they pose is, what are the trade-offs of reducing flexibility for counties?
I don't see this as trade-offs. I have an abundance mindset. That's a scarcity mindset. This is stacked on all these other reforms, new money that was never even imagined 5 years ago. New strategies, new tools from Care Court itself, new general fund support for the Care Court model, the $4.6 billion we set aside for Master Plan for Youth. That was money that didn't pre-exist. The reforms with our 1115 waivers as it relates to what we're trying to do with IMD, the money we put up in the space, the opportunities with CalAIM, all of those are stacking of additional resources that didn't exist. So that old county mindset is the reason we've never reformed the Mental Health Services Act since 2004. And with respect, it goes to the first question. There's a group of people that literally hold hands and talk about the way the world should be. And well-intended, I assume, go out and have a candlelight vigil. And then there's folks that are the hard-headed pragmatists that are out there trying to actually get things done. And I think it's the latter that prevailed here. I've been doing this a long time as a former county mayor, not just as a city mayor, and I've heard these same arguments over and over again that we're opposing any fundamental reform. And now we are in a completely different paradigm where people are actually promoting the reform that in the past were part of that brigade of opposing it. I think people recognize we need to do things differently, and we've never been more abundant, ever, in our history, in this space than we are today in terms of resources, and now a more resourceful mindset.
Are you optimistic this is going to work?
I know it will work because I saw the results of some of the progress that we have made over the last few years. This is not the first stab at change. We've been promoting change for a number of years, and we saw that downstairs when I met with a lot of individuals that were beneficiaries of the work. So I know that the issue can be solved. I don't think it, I know it. There's just too many individuals, too many people. In fact, they're standing right behind you. A lot of people's lives have completely changed, but they needed that support. They needed the early intervention. About 50% of mental health incidents really occur before the age of 14, 75% before the age of 24. You've got to treat brain health early before we punish it later. We spend a fortune on the back end. Back to the point, will take time, but at the same time, the voters have the opportunity in March to begin the process anew with different level of accountability and expectations. So absolutely, I know it will work.
Well, Governor, in March, what will be the sales pitch to voters? Like, what will be the elevator pitch to vote?
Well, if you care about the status quo, then vote no. You care about veterans, you care about accountability, you care not to spend any more money of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars, but you want to make sure that the dollars that are already being appropriated are used more wisely and thoughtfully to address the issues and the conditions that define the biggest stress in the state of California. Vote yes on Prop 1.
You talked a lot about accountability. Can you outline some of the ways that accountability will be achieved, some of the specific measures?
I've got the accountability brigade here that wants to talk about all of that, and Dr. Galley is leading the accountability brigade, and he'll give you some acronyms you'll have to look up.
I'll try not to.
Spell your name first.
Ghaly. So, look, today, we don't get a clear sense of what's actually happening with these dollars. We don't have the data systems for counties to report up what they're doing. We don't even have the data systems at the state level to digest what they're doing. We don't know if the outpatient services that are funded through the Mental Health Services Act are making the kind of difference in the lives of people that it was intended to make a difference for. We don't know if it's co-occurring disorders or bipolar or depression. We don't know if people are cycling in and out of jail or not. That changes with this. We get to establish statewide measures that matter for Californians to see that difference. The question that said, how do you know that you're going to see a difference? It's because we're going to track the information, not just at the statewide level. We know that we don't live at the statewide level. We're going to live county by county and understand what's happening with that data. So we're going to resource the counties, make sure they have what it takes to deliver that information to us. We're going to post it publicly. We're going to work with county by county to make sure they have the tools to make a difference when we're seeing problems with the data. And we're going to set goals collectively that matter to Californians. And that alone, it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect sometimes. And we're going to increase our ability to do that hand in hand with our county partners. So every taxpayer in California can say, I understand where this is going, it's making a difference, and when it isn't, we're changing our ways and making it a little better. So that's how we're going to do it. It's not that complicated, it's just something we've never done before. And 20 years into the Mental Health Services Act, this is a key feature. Talk about all the other changes, substance use disorder, prioritization, a focus on housing, really, really important. But without the accountability, we'll never know if we're actually delivering on that promise.
And by the way, accountability sometimes often comes in different forms. And one of the great frustrations a lot of us have is the inability to cite programs, to cite and construct new facilities, even board and care, even rehabbing existing spaces. What we're doing is we're building off a lot of the reforms the last few years that we did during COVID as it relates to our home key model that allows for as-of-right zoning, et cetera, and then building off that in terms of the infrastructure dollars. Remember, 11,000+ new units that build off those reforms through COVID that allow us actually to cite these things. And they're different types of units. We're not interested, I can assure you this with respect, I have zero interest as a taxpayer, as a governor, to see $900,000 per key costs associated with a unit. We want cost-efficient units to be built and rehabbed, and we want alternatives across the spectrum. And so we've designed this very strategically with speed in mind to actually produce the results. I don't want to see this in 20, 30 years. You don't want to either. We don't want to wait for an audit 5 years from now and you're all rolling your eyes going, what the hell is going on? And why am I back doing the same story I did on prop this, on prop that? We've learned those lessons and we've built all of that into this new strategy.
Governor, if I may, so I don't mean to sound redundant here, but I want to come back to the money. So assume voters pass this in March on the ballot. How quickly does the money begin moving to the communities that apply for the, what I assume will be the grants? And then secondarily, 10.9 billion, right? It does, that's the total, that's the total.
Yeah, if you include the 6.38 billion plus the existing funding that we're providing. And that's, and I'm going to make this very confusing for you. You look at our totality of investment in this space over the next 3 to 5 years, and this is an actual number, $28 billion. This is next level investments. And so the 10.9 is just a component part. So that goes to the point of just, money's not the issue if this initiative passes. Money's the excuse. It's now about accountability, holding me accountable, but holding locals. I say it all the time, localism's determinative. The state doesn't fulfill the vision. That's realized at the local level. And that's why we had to get aggressive with the counties, with all due respect. As a former county mayor, I know that's hard, but it's remarkable how many county leaders were willing to accept that responsibility and helped advance and support it. And I know Hilda Solis, among others, is here, that said, we support the change. We recognize we have obligations as well. We want more flexibility and we want more housing in return, and that's what they got.
How quickly, though, before the money moves, if it's passed?
The money should be able to flow right away. Again, Mental Health Service Act dollars are going out in real time. This just begins the paradigm shift in real time.
If not tax money, where does it come from?
So the existing money comes from that tax, Prop 63. It's the 1% quote-unquote millionaires tax. It was established by the gentleman on your left in 2004. If you want to complain about taxes, talk to that guy. As it relates to so that money, get up here, the face of that tax. So the money's already going out, and that shift will occur in real time in the fiscal year as we begin that process transition. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give you the mic.
The governor said it when he made his statement earlier. The number one question that people ask who are in this field or trying to help people who are living on the streets is, where can I help people go? Where is there a roof? Where is there a bed? And the problem has been with the Mental Health Services Act that money has been well spent. A lot of people have been helped, but there has not been up until now the state leadership to demand that the money be spent where the needs are the greatest, and that is to build more beds and to build more roofs. 1/3 of this money under Proposition 1 has to be spent on housing and housing supports for people living with serious mental illness. Another 30% has to be spent on what has been proven to work, which is the wraparound service model. That 60+% of the money will now be directed to be spent on the problem that is the most serious crisis in our state. We did our best 20 years ago to put all those elements in, but we gave the discretion, frankly, to the counties, and they've done a good job. It's just now is the time to focus the money. That's what accountability is to say the people want the money spent on homelessness, on people coming in and out of our criminal justice system. They want the money spent on helping teenagers to avoid that first break where once they get into the system, it's so hard to come back. That's what the people want, and that's what this reform is delivering. That's accountability.
To your point, Mayor, on that 30% on housing, is there at this point any flexibility for counties to have some more discretion on that specific 30%?
Yes, there was an amendment made, I know at the end, with Dr. Galley and the governor's leadership to allow a percentage of the money to be used for non-housing needs. You know, if a county is meeting its housing numbers, so there is some of that discretion, but there is nothing wrong with the state leading. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's right. Not to tell the counties exactly how to spend the money or what kind of housing or exactly how to implement this. But up until this governor, no governor, honestly, has taken the mantle and said, we want to see the outcomes that the people are demanding. So this is a reform, in my view, that is long overdue. And that's why this is a historic day.
We never saw the bill being signed. Do you have a copy of it?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How did you miss that?
No,
Hilda, did you steal the bill?
never got to see it. No.
What is that? How can you?
I need, well, let me, do we have a copy of the bill? We can do a fake bill signing. I mean, and then I'll get to the, I mean a real bill signing, not a fake one. Jesus, like, did we have a, do that? Yeah. Well, okay, and I'll get to that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just, as we all see on the street, we talked about the unhoused with security. How is security going to be put into the workers to be protected from the mental health that we have seen, also like the violence that has been created in their heads as well?
Well, maybe, when I got a doctor, I might as well have the doctor answer that question.
I think it's an important question, and in healthcare broadly, we've been facing a crisis within the workforce. And I think Governor Newsom, this administration, so many of the legislators who are here recognize that and have invested in it. So it comes with recruitment, comes with training, it comes with support of individuals while they're doing their work. I think it's a real thing we've got to recognize in how we create and support the not-for-profits doing the work. It is a real issue. And if we're going to make the kind of movement that we want to see on this issue, how do we deal with the intersection of substance use, mental health, and homelessness, frankly, incarceration as well? We've got to support people to have what they need to do that work day in and day out. And so there are ways to do that. There are evidence-based ways to do it. And this move is allowing us to do that at a scale that we've never been able to do before. And I think that will be one of the judges of how we're doing in the future, right? Do we actually see a workforce that's healthy and thriving while we're making the kind of impacts that we want to see in the lives of those they're serving?
And remember, the workforce investments here are profound and significant. The idea that we have ongoing money now to invest in that workforce, to train that workforce, to support that workforce is particularly significant as it relates to this initiative as well. That is so often overlooked. It was not overlooked as it relates to these efforts in this initiative. Remember, the 65,000 figure is the goal in terms of support. 65,000 workers that we're hoping to train and recruit. That is a significant number. And that goes across the system, not just for these new sites or slots, but more broadly into the healthcare system as well. So this effort will support those broader efforts. May I sign this? So we can at least get up here, Daryl. Yeah, we're doing this for the first time.
This is it. Wow.
These are the actual bills, but
actual
the copy of the bills. So thank you. They're good. And then the fake applause. Amazing. Yeah. All right.
Tom and Karen. Can I get Tom and Karen?
Yeah, get Tom and Karen.
Tom
Yeah,
and
actually,
Karen.
yeah,
Come
there
on,
are actually
Karen
some
Larson,
faces
come on.
you should see because
Please.
they did not get enough
the
attention.
Institute leadership.
Yeah, get in here.
Please.
Get in here. Dr. Galley,
Dr. Galley.
Dr. G.
Hold
Mark,
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
Dr. Galley, you get
this
in
is the
on it.
bill.
yeah. I mean, these are actually the bills. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, go get in here, Loris and Lindsay, good. Our agency directors. Thanks, guys. Thanks all. Oh, I'll grab you.